Hey guys, what is going on? This is NGS and welcome back to VEDA. VEDA stands for Vlog Every Day in April, and we are on day numero 18, the real 18. Not like yesterday's video when I said it was day 18 when it was actually day 17, but we're here on the real 18 because, I don't know. I'm kind of tongue twisted from saying 18 so many times, so I don't even know where I'm going with this. So this episode in particular, what I want to talk to you guys about is Blockbuster, man. Blockbuster Video. Now, it's no shocker to anybody that I was one of the kids growing up in the 90s who, once every single Friday school bell hit, the first place that I would go when my mom would pick me up would be Blockbuster. And I have so many memories of just going to Blockbuster every week as a child. So I want to share them with y'all. I know it sounds cheesy and corny, but it's something that I was talking to a coworker with today, and we were just reminiscing about all the good times going to the local Blockbuster. And what was the cool thing about it was that we had two Blockbusters in our area. See, where I live, there are two towns that are adjacent to where my house is, and they're both 10 minutes away. So both of them conveniently had a Blockbuster. The first Blockbuster that I went to, this was in Town A. That was huge. It had such a variety of movies and video games, and it was beautiful. However, about a couple years later, they opened up a Blockbuster in Town B. And I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but when you're going into a new store for the very first time, what is it about that new car feeling, that new car smell that's just so intoxicating? Like, random story, not even related to Blockbuster whatsoever. When I started collecting anime and buying DVDs from Best Buy, one thing that I would do, not ashamed at all, is whenever I bought it, I would open up the anime DVD, open up the case, smell it, and just bask in the intoxicating smell of a new DVD. And it was awesome, and I did it, and I was a really weird 11-year-old at the time, but regardless, that new smell was in Blockbuster, and it was heavenly. I spent 3 hours that day in Blockbuster. 3 hours. I don't even know how exactly I spent 3 hours in a Blockbuster. I think my parents were doing shopping across the street because there happened to be a Stop and Shop there. So I just spent in there, and I don't even know if I walked out with anything. I really didn't, but I do remember one of the first rentals that I made at that Blockbuster was Tarzan, the Disney animated one. And I watched the living crap out of Tarzan, man. And I think that was one of the first DVDs we actually rented, because DVDs were really big around the time they were coming into existence, like in the late 90s. So we got Tarzan, and I would really love watching that. And one of the things that I rented from Blockbuster more than anything were Nintendo 64 games. The N64 was really big in this household. No shocker to anybody, of course. And one of the games that we rented a lot before we ended up buying it was Pokemon Stadium. Pokemon Stadium was like the go-to party game next to Mario Party, Mario Kart, you know, a lot of the old Nintendo franchises. And it was just awesome. However, once we got Pokemon Stadium, ironically enough, Pokemon Stadium 2 was out. So we rented Pokemon Stadium 2 more times than I think anything from Blockbuster. Pokemon Stadium 2 was like the perfect sequel in my eyes. I have not played the game in so many years, but with the amount of times that we rented that game, just, man, it was a beautiful feeling. There was something about renting games for Blockbuster and not worrying about the fact that your save data had been written over because so many people are renting it. You know, it was just playing the games over and over just to get that experience before you even bought it. It was just a lovely feeling, and Pokemon Stadium 2 was the shit. So yeah, man, that was what's up. But there was one experience at Blockbuster that happened with me involving an N64 game that I'm never gonna forget. This is the sign of where I knew that gaming was getting pretty legit. We had rented The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Like, this is the thing. Like, when I was a kid, we didn't have all this technology for you to follow all the news, you know. All we relied on was commercials and video game magazines, you know. There was no real big internet push like there is now. There was none of that stuff. So if we had the chance to go into the grocery store and read a magazine to see all the new games that were coming out, we would do that. But more often than not, we just went to the Blockbusters to see the new games that were out. And they had a new Zelda game for the N64. And we were just like, oh my god, that's crazy. And they had a gold cartridge too. We were freaking out, me and my sister. Or my sister and I. Wham bam, I can't speak for shit, fam. I'm gonna start saying that every single time I screw up my grammar. That'll teach me to stop. So we rented The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask, and when we got home, I remember it was around 8:45 at night. The reason why the time is so important, you'll understand. We got home and we tried putting it into the system, and I think everybody who's played Majora's Mask on the N64 will understand this. The game wouldn't run. Basically, I don't know if it was a lot of games that utilized the expansion pack that provided more memory for the N64, but The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask was one of them. And it wouldn't work for whatever reason, so we were freaking out. We were thinking we had gotten a broken game. We thought that... thought somebody was knocking on my window. We had thought that our system was just not functioning and we had to get a new console. We were just like, oh no, why is this happening? And so my mom called up Blockbuster and she said, hey, you know, for some reason this game is not working. And they quickly tried to diagnose the reasons as to why. And then we read the screen and said, you need more memory. And lucky enough, the Blockbuster actually did have one of the expansion packs there lying around. I don't know if a lot of Blockbusters did this, but apparently you could rent out consoles from there and controllers and a bunch of weird stuff. I don't know if a lot of them did them. Mine didn't, but I have heard stories about that. So they gave us the expansion pack and we were able to play Majora's Mask for that weekend. The reason why the time was so sensitive was because it was 8:45 and this Blockbuster closed around 9-ish. I know most closed like 10, 11, 12, but this one closed at 9. So, you know, when that happened, we had to rush over there, grab the expansion pack, come back, play the game, and it was just glorious. Majora's Mask was a fun Zelda game. Not the best one, but it was a fun one. So that was just one of my more memorable memories from Blockbuster. In addition to having to, what was it called? You know, for the new hot releases, you only had the opportunity to rent them for 1 to 2 days. That was a big deal because it was the same damn price. And we like to have our 5-day rentals, which were $5. So it was a big deal. We would wait like a week afterwards so they would stop being a hot rental, and then we would rent them and play them to our heart's content. And I remember renting a lot of the Pokemon movies from there. I think I binged, like every week I rented a new Pokemon movie from there. You know, I started with the first one, then I made my way up until I think Jirachi Wishmaker. And the reason why I was able to rent so much stuff from Blockbuster, I know a lot of people are like, oh, you know, your parents must have been paying, you know, a lot of money for you to go to Blockbuster like every week. No, man, Blockbuster treated their customers really, really good in the beginning. Every time I would go in there, they would just like hand me coupons because the more I rented, the more coupons we got. And they gave us like coupons every month for free rentals. And that was just insanely cool. I was able to rent so much stuff, and I had like a list of things that I wanted to rent from Blockbuster, and they were like A tier, B tier, C tier, and then shit tier. There's no D tier. After C tier, you're better off, you know, not even watching it. So I had all of my things in the list, and I even got to some of the stuff on the C tier, so it was just pretty cool. And the last memory I want to focus on about Blockbuster before I get into, you know, my thoughts on their downfall was for all my anime fans in the room. This happened in around 2002, I want to say 5, 6, around that time, might have been 2007. Basically, there was a new anime around the block that was making a lot of popular waves. You know, obviously not at this time, it was like a year afterwards, but y'all remember Fullmetal Alchemist. Fullmetal Alchemist had been airing on Adult Swim, and I definitely think this was like 2005, 2006 when this happened, because it was before the series had ended over here in the States. And I had seen that they had a Fullmetal Alchemist game for the PlayStation 2. It was, I think, Fullmetal Alchemist, the Curse of the Crimson Elixir, something weird like that. Like, it's not Fullmetal Alchemist Dual Symphony or Broken Angel or something that was on the Nintendo DS. It was one on the PS2. There were 2 of them, mind you. You know what? I'm just gonna go get my phone so I can actually see what the name of the damn game was. Okay, upon closer inspection, it turns out it was called Fullmetal Alchemist and the Broken Angel. So I guess I was right to an extent. But yeah, it was Fullmetal Alchemist and the Broken Angel. And I believe there was another game on the PlayStation 2. I know I rented both. There we go. Curse of the Crimson Elixir. So I ended up being right. Wow, that was pretty weird. I guess never doubt yourself too heavily. But I remember renting both of those games from Blockbuster. And the funny thing is, I forgot which one. Might have been the first or the second. One of them came with a sneak preview episode of the anime. You know, they had an English dubbed episode before it aired on TV. And that came in included with the game. Now, when I got my copy from Blockbuster, they had given me only the DVD. So I hooked up my PS2 and I'm ready to play it, and it's only the episode. And I'm just like, well, this sucks. So I had to go back and actually get the game. And it was fun. I remember having a lot of fun with both Fullmetal Alchemist games. I think that the second one I played a lot more than the first one, but man, someone out there needs to get back into it and not play one, but create a new Fullmetal Alchemist game. Because Fullmetal Alchemist, those shits on the PS2, obviously this is just my anime nostalgia kicking in, but I had so much fun playing those games. So yeah, if someone out there is gonna make a new video game and you wanna like sell some units, make it a Fullmetal Alchemist one, bro, and do it justice, because there is so much potential in that franchise. So that was something I found was hilarious. But after that, that was really one of the last times that I went to Blockbuster on the same wave as I did before, because they started to raise their prices for their rentals. I'll never forget this. When it started from $5 and it went up to like $6.50, that was a sign of things to come. And me being, you know, a preteen at the time, I started to notice that, you know, it was getting more expensive. And I'm like, huh, that's pretty weird. And I started to notice less coupons were being sent in the mail. And I was just like, oh, I guess I'm not going to Blockbuster. So instead of, you know, spending my money on the rentals, I just saved it and bought the games I wanted to play. And man, there was legit a period, I think of probably from the time I rented Fullmetal Alchemist up until when I started working at my first job in 2010. I had not rented anything. So I was curious, and I went to Blockbuster in, I think, summer 2010, just to see how things were. And man, it was a completely different landscape. You know, Blockbuster used to be packed on a regular basis. I'm talking Mondays, right? When we would have days off on Tuesdays for certain holidays, we would go into Blockbuster and rent some things. And it would be packed on Mondays too. But, you know, Saturday evening, which is one of the, you know, peak hours for Blockbuster as well, there was no people in there. There were probably only 2 cashiers, you know, making sure the store was running. And it was just crazy, dude. I just started noticing a difference. So I just said, you know what, I need a new game to play. I had just gotten a PS3 a couple months earlier, so I'm like, yeah, let me go check out a game rental. I went over there, and to rent a game, it cost damn near $10. It was like $10 to rent a PS3 game for like 5 days. And I was just like, oh man, what's going on? And then from there, like, I was just curious, like, what the hell happened to Blockbuster? I started to notice like less enthusiasm in the company as a whole. And I was just mind boggled, like how so much can change in just a few years. And then I started to realize that they didn't understand the market, number one. They didn't understand the digital wave of Netflix. They didn't understand Redbox, and they just couldn't adapt to services like GameFly. So, you know, their demise was of their own doing. They were just poorly managed. They didn't understand what the consumer wanted as a whole, because unfortunately that type of person who would go and rent movies, you know, every Friday, has just transitioned to a service like Netflix, or, you know, if they can't get it on Netflix, they get it on Redbox. So it was sad to see Blockbuster go, because I had so many good times and memories and experiences from there. And I mean, at the same time, I'm sad they're gone, but at the same time, you know, these things you just can't change. It kind of sucks that I don't have like a local rental place to go and try certain games out before I buy them, because that's the one thing I do miss more than anything. Movies, more often than not, you see them hit Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime like really quick. But video games, you know, you gotta wait on those, and they're never necessarily free unless you subscribe to like PlayStation Plus or Xbox Games with Gold. So it just sucks that I don't have like a local video rental place. But this is how times change. You know, if you don't adapt to the ever-growing market, then you're going to get left behind in the dust. Anyway, you guys, that was my long, rambly VEDA rant for today, day number 18. Post your Blockbuster memories down below. I'm so tempted to say Best Buy for whatever reason. But yeah, post them down below. Let me know. I'm GS signing out, and like always, I will catch you guys later. Peace.
You're wrong. I know now, without a doubt. Kingdom Hearts is...
These nuts! Got him! Got him!